Suppose you have an idea. It's a great idea and you have a lot of enthusiasm for it. There's confidence in the first days after having the idea. You get a lot of inspiration on how to realize it, and your imagination creates a great flow. You can already see it happen. This part of having the idea is pure inspiration. It's great and it's necessary for the realization of it. Now it's important to capture this energy, to make drawings or to write down what is essential to you. And right after that, you take a conscious decision. This is no longer the inspiration at work, but the self-consciousness of the owner. Looking at the idea and taking a decision on whether or not to make use of the inspiration and realize your idea. I will explain to you why this is so important. A few days, or sometimes even a few hours after you had the idea, dragons will appear. They will jump on you and your idea to tear it apart. They will make it look unimportant, not original, or too difficult. They will tell you, can't you see you're not capable of doing this? Other people can do this, but not you. They will come up with all kinds of good-sounding arguments. You will become blinded by your dragons and not be able to feel the great energy that was in your idea when it started. Actually, a lot of good ideas get lost that way, or will be executed much less brilliant than they were when they started. And that's really too bad, because it's not necessary. Now, after taking the decision, there's one final thing before starting the realization that you need to do. And that is to share your idea with other people. Let them know of your dreams. And this is not an easy thing to be done, because dragons will appear. You can see it as the proof of your decision. Sharing your idea will keep you from withdrawing it later, when it gets harder. When all this is done, you start the realization of your idea. And you can see the realization as a walk between two borders. On one side, the border of your talent. And on the other side, there is the border of the dragons. So here you go in the direction of realizing your idea. And sometimes you're on this side. You're in your flow, you're inspired, you're in the talent side of your working. And sometimes you're in the middle, just working, doing your things, daily life. And sometimes you're in serious doubts and you're suffering on your dragons. But still, you have captured your idea. So you know where to go, and you know that all this is part of the work that you're doing. Working like this, you will not drift away when going towards the realization of your idea. Even in your most dragon-like moments, you will know where you go. And you don't make compromises because you've captured the original energy of your idea. And how difficult it may be, you can always remember the dragons are not the ones telling me the truth. The truth is what I've realized and heard at the beginning of my idea. Why is it so important to start realizing your ideas and not think them over once again? Because it will make you grow more than anything else. In fact, it would be giving in to your dragons if you would say, let's think it over again. Because you can remain looking at your talent and your dragons for a lifetime. You will get to know more and more about yourself, but your talent needs to be practiced. It needs to be challenged to grow. And your dragons need to be tamed. And this you cannot do in theory. It's in the doing that you learn the most. So do not wait till you're ready for it, because you will never be. Just start. It will certainly not be perfect, it will never be. But if you think it over too long, you will lose the initial energy that you need for realizing your idea. Realize that it's not at the beginning that you can match the difficulties of realizing your idea, but at the end. All the knowledge and all the experience needed for realizing it, you will collect on the way. You have to grow towards realization, and that is exactly what you can trust that will happen. Just because it was you having the initial idea and you saying yes to it.